is Dr. David Johnston. I find myself currently restoring Balintore Castle, and it wasn't always a life ambition to restore a castle. Currently I'm in Scotland. I've been living for a long time in England, but I grew up in Scotland and I never expected to be back in Scotland in my lifetime. My parents were long dead, and then I discovered Balintore Castle and she dragged me back to Scotland. I found Balintore Castle in a brochure, The Buildings at Risk Register for Scotland. I opened this little brochure and I went, that is an amazing building. How come nobody's trying to save that? Next page. That is an amazing building. How is somebody not trying to restore that or bring it back to life? And that was the epiphany. At that moment I knew I would be restoring a building in life. There are a few hints in my childhood that suggested I might do something like that. I remember once staying in, it was feeder primary schools to get to know everybody else. And I remember at the age of 11 standing in front of this marvellous carved oak fireplace in the hallway with deeply carved bunches of grapes that you could reach behind. And I was obviously transfixed by this fireplace, and one of our teachers called Miss Livingston walked past and said, "David, they don't make it like that anymore." So that was an early suggestion. Then I bought myself a house in England. I came back to Scotland to see my parents. I was reading the local paper and whoa, there's a castle for sale for just £100,000. And my mum said, "Oh yeah, they're very common, David." So that was another little bit of evidence that I was maybe going to do something like this.
We don't get the picture looking at it close, but I took a jog the other day and ran through the other side of the valley over there, and you look back and see the castle up against the pines. It's just a beautiful thing.
So we'd seen pictures of the exterior. It's very impressive and majestic. And the feeling I got when I walked through the front door was that overwhelming despair.
My first reaction when I walked through the door was, wow. It was in a lot rougher condition than I expected, a lot more dilapidated, and it hurt me because when you approach this grand structure, it almost takes your breath away. You look at this building that was erected so many years ago to see how it had kind of fallen to crumbles. It makes me sad.
I knew the story of David Johnston and his desire to renovate the entire castle. I felt empathy for him. He's got a big task in front of him, and I can't tell you how much respect I have for him that he has taken this on.
His dedication and his love for wanting to restore something that is so hurt. You can tell that people just lost the care for this building, and he loves it and is really trying to bring that magic back that people kind of don't feel unless it's a beautifully restored building.
I tried to buy the building from the previous owner. I got no response. There was 6 months of telephone calls, letters and emails. There were plans drawn up by the previous owner, and there were rumours of a casino in the building, which I would have quite enjoyed. But I think quite a lot of foreign people like to own a castle in Scotland. It ticks the box, and they often say they're going to restore it or they have plans for it, but they actually don't do anything in the end, and this is a very common pattern. I can see it time and time again. And then there's a law called compulsory purchase where you can force the sale of a building if it's a listed building and it's not being looked after. And that's actually quite a complex legal process, and the legal work to buy the building took 8 years. And it's ironic that I'm the person without any money, and I am actually Scottish, that is trying to restore the building. The previous owner was not maintaining the building. It had been lying derelict for 50 years. Sections of the roof had collapsed in, so the whole building was saturated with water. Dry rot, a fungal disease, had run riot through the building. It had destroyed floors, it had destroyed windows. So basically it was halfway towards becoming a ruin. So the technical definition of a ruin is a building without a roof. Balintore had a roof. It was in a pretty bad way, but I use the term good in parts, which is a very positive way of looking at it. You couldn't actually walk into the building when I bought it. There was 8 feet of rubble on the floor. You couldn't open the front door and walk in, you'd be confronted by a cliff of rubble. So initial work in the building was just clearing the rubble out so we could move through the building, and there was actually a mountain of rubble all around the building. I think there were 2 such mountains, a complete ring of rubble around the building. Step 1 was literally hauling out the rubble. I mean, there were trees growing on the roof, there were trees growing on the walls, there was, it was covered in grass and vegetation. If a building is deteriorating, there will be vegetation on it, but buildings all return to nature. So a large part of the initial tasks were trying to reclaim it back from Mother Nature. Because the building's been open to the elements for 50 years, people have come in and stolen things. However, those little small finds you make bring a sense of joy. I think one of the best things found in the castle was a wooden plaque, and this was handwritten in pencil and copper plate by the carpenters of the castle, and it's dated 1858. And I knew about the plaque, it had been found by people in the vicinity, and I thought it was lost. And then one evening, one of my good friends came to me with the plaque, and it was dated the 28th of November 1858, and you won't believe it, the date was the 28th of November, and my friend handed it to me, and I held it in my hand, and it literally read, it said, "You who are holding this plaque in your hand, let it be known that we are long dead and buried under the earth." And that was the carpenters of the building speaking directly to me from beyond the grave, and I burst into tears. What we wanted to do was to convert the kitchen wing into habitable accommodation. I was looking at Airbnb accommodation. Because I don't have very much money, the way to do the restoration is to get the building to sing for its supper. Now, I always knew it would have to sing for its supper. However, the local council didn't give us permission to restore the kitchen wing for 7 years. So I was devastated by that, but I thought I can't let the building fall apart. So the actual thing we did first was to try and start repairing the roof of the main body of the castle, and put in floors in the main body of the castle, and put in windows in the main body of the castle, essentially making the interior of the castle navigable again. This took a long time. For example, I believe I'd owned the building for 7 years, and we were still finding new rooms in the castle that we'd not been to before, because new sections of corridor were being built. And there was 1 week, I think we were finding a new room every day. It was quite exciting. The primary mechanism is local builders. So if you got a contracting company in to restore a place like this, it would cost millions of pounds. So the restoration quote for this building when I started the project was 5 to 10 million. It could easily be 10 to 20 million nowadays. But I knew the way to do it was to get local builders, so the money you pay translates into actual physical work. And I was determined to do a lot of the work myself to save money. I really like working with my hands, and initially I did a lot of hands-on work. Eventually I came to the conclusion that the project is so large, you need to bring quite a lot of people in. Height is one of the challenges because the building's very tall, it's got 4 floors and towers. So to actually access areas, you have to build scaffolding up, work at height, and the roof is 4 levels up. So you've got to be very careful with your working practices. So that's one of the main difficulties. Also just lifting things up into position. I remember handing floorboards up to my builder up a tower, up 1 level, he would go to the next level, get the floorboard, and I would run up to the next level. And I remember my builder saying, "David, you're not moving it up." And I said, I can only do one of 2 things. I can either hold it here like this, or I can drop it. I can't lift it up anymore, I'm exhausted. So fortunately the builder came down to help me. I've been restoring Balintore Castle for 16 years, which is a long time. The reason it's taking such a long time is A, it's a massive building, and B, I don't have very much money. So it's very much a labour of love, it's not a business venture. I love architecture, I love Victorian architecture. This is a Scottish baronial building, which is an amazing style. Just imagine Hogwarts Castle from J.K. Rowling, and that is a Scottish vernacular architectural style. There was a stage where I dallied into a metric mistakenly, and I thought, I've maybe done 10% in 10 years. That'll only take 100 years. So the solution was maybe to turn myself and my builder into vampires, so we'd keep on going after death. But no, you haven't to think of timescale. All you've got to do is look at the next goal. And one thing that I do think about is getting the building in a stable state so it generates enough income to pay for the restoration, so I don't have to work like crazy to pay for the building's restoration. There is actually one collapsed window in the building, which is going to be a big problem for the future, and all the rubble and stones are just lying outside the back of the castle. The end goal is nothing to do with finishing the project. The end goal was to have disreputable parties here, and not only to have disreputable parties, but have those parties consist of entirely reputable people and corrupt them. So it's the castle is about having a good time. It's a shooting lodge, people came in on their holidays, and when I see people enjoying themselves at the castle, that's what it's meant to be. It's a ludicrously large project, and it's a lifetime's project. So before I took it on, I had to be absolutely certain that he's what I wanted to be doing for the rest of my life. And eventually I came to the conclusion that yes, it would make me happy.